So who's had an opportunity to think of what is their favourite Bible story? Mickey. Joseph, sold into slavery. A life that was given a second chance. Who was down in the dumps and given a second chance. Anyone else? Jesus calming the storm. When the guys were in the boat, that one. So when Jesus was in the boat, he was with his disciples. He'd been training them up, getting them ready to go and be disciples without him, and he calmed the storm. Beautiful. Christmas, the Christmas story of Jesus being born, the King of the second chance coming and giving us new life. Anyone else? Yeah. So what a great story when Mary came and saw Jesus had defeated death and did all that so you and I could live. Anyone else? Moses, the story of Moses, the Israelites being held in captivity, the Jewish people being held in captivity in Egypt, and Moses setting them free. David and Goliath, great story. Again, the people of God being oppressed by an evil dictator was released and given new life through David. Jesus wept. Yeah, beautiful. That the one that came to give us life was not emotionally dead, but he was alive inside, and that's why he was able to give us life. Anyone else? The prodigal son, a beautiful story of redemption, isn't it? A story of having everything given to us, losing everything, ending up with the pigs, but given a new life because of who Jesus is. One more. Wow, look, they're everywhere. So I'll keep on going. Nehemiah. Rebuilding the wall, again, a story of redemption where the Israelites were the walls of Jerusalem were destroyed. They came out of captivity, and Nehemiah rebuilt the wall to signify life coming back into the people. Anyone else? Jonah and the whale. Again, a story of the second chance, of redemption. Hannah and Samuel. Hannah, again, sorry? Adam and Eve. But Hannah and Samuel, Hannah wanting a son, desperate for a son. And she was given new life through her son. Noah's Ark, again, a story of redemption, a story where man had lost its way and new life came through that. The woman that with the issue of blood, again, a story, she'd spent all her money and had given everything to physicians to help her, but Jesus came along and touched her and gave her a second chance. This morning I want to speak to you. We've been doing a series called Pilgrims of Hope, and today's one is Pilgrims of Hope, living in the second chance. Living in the second chance. Every one of those stories, every story in the Bible is a story of redemption, and it brings us to a place where God comes in and he sees our life. Doesn't matter if it's a good life or a bad life, a messy life or an ordered life. He comes in and he gives us a chance to live it the way he wants us to live. To live it a way that isn't just about you and me, but is about others. Live it from a position of love rather than selfish desires. And I want to start off by saying this. Everybody is given a second chance. He calls us all higher to live in a place of grace that continues to be given and given and given. If you've got a Bible with you, you can turn to Matthew 18, and it tells a story of a rich ruler. There once was a king, starting at verse 23, there once was a king who had servants that had borrowed money from the royal treasury. He decided to settle the accounts with each of them. As he began the process, it came to his attention that one of his servants owed him $1 billion. Now, $1 billion is a lot of money. I don't know how you pay that back. But he realised his servant had owed him $1 billion, so he summoned the servant before him and said to him, "Pay me what you owe me." When his servant was unable to repay the debt, the king ordered that he be sold as a slave along with his wife and children and every possession they owned as payment towards his debt. The servant threw himself face down at the master's feet and begged for mercy. "Please be patient with me. Please, if you only be patient with me, I will pay you back this $1 billion. How do you do that? Don't ask me. Wouldn't have a clue. But that's what he said. And what happened is the king had mercy on him. He looked at him and he said, "Look, I can see you're genuine in your mercy. I will forgive your debt." Could you imagine that? "I will forgive your debt to this unsurmountable, unbelievable amount of money. I will forgive your debt." No sooner had the servant left when he met a fellow servant who owed him $20,000. And he grabbed him by the throat and he started choking him and saying, "Give me the money you owe me." And the servant said, "I will pay you back everything." And he said, "No, I want it now." And so the servant fell at his feet and begged him to give him time. But the servant that had been forgiven the major debt threw the other servant in jail and said, "No, you're going to stay in jail until my debt is recovered." Now some onlookers saw this and they went back to the king, and the king was so angry and he called the servant and he said, "You scoundrel, why, when I forgave you so much of a debt, would you not forgive the debt of the servant who owed you a little amount?" And out of anger and fury, he threw him in jail and had him tortured until he paid his debt. I don't know how you torture someone to get $1 billion back, but that's what he did. But the key in verse 35 is, "In the same way, my heavenly Father will deal with any of you if you do not release forgiveness from your heart towards other believers." See, here was a guy that was given a second chance. He had all this debt, but he was given a new chance at life, not having to pay it back. He was free. But he couldn't live in that second chance. He took his own life. He used a second chance like a get out of jail free card, and then just went and did whatever he wanted to do. But he was unable to live in that place. I don't know about you, but I've been in the Christian life since I was a little boy, and I've seen this happen time and time again, where people had been given a second chance by Jesus, and I've seen people that have been healed miraculously. I've seen people that have had amazing gifts. And one by one, life comes along, and just like that servant, they forget the power of grace and forgiveness, and they just build a life for themselves, not involving Jesus. See, Jesus comes to give us life and life more abundantly. He comes to give us life more abundantly than the one that you could ever imagine without him. So this morning, I want to speak, how do we live? How do we live in that space of the second chance? How do we live in this space where it's not about me, it's not about my agenda, it's about his agenda? How do we live in this space where we can live from the place of going, hang on, I'm not looking at this second chance as just a free pass for now. I'm looking this as a new opportunity to get to know the Father that I've been longing for, to get to know the one that had created me, to get to know the one that has given me all life. I want to get to know him. So how do we live? How do we live? And I want to give you 3 keys. I'm not going to do what Meg did last week and give you 7 keys. Meg's way smarter than me. I can't even think of 7 keys. But I want to give you 3 keys this morning that will help you live in the place of the second chance. And the first key is this: don't judge people on their past. Don't judge people on their past. This is the hardest of all keys, because right now you're probably looking at me and judging me because I said that. Judgment is a terrible thing. We have judgments every day, but we don't judge people on their past. There is a very powerful religious leader in the book of Acts, and his name was Saul. And he was basically the high priest's henchman. He went around arresting, killing anyone that said they were a believer of Jesus Christ. And Paul went to the high priest and he says, guys, look, what I want you to do, I want you to give me a letter that gives me authority to go anywhere in the known world where we are and arrest, throw in jail, stone, kill, do whatever I want to anyone that says they're a believer of God. And the high priest gave Saul this letter. And as he left the high priest's temple in Jerusalem, he started walking to Damascus, and a lot of people might know the story. And as he was walking along the road to Damascus, this light came from heaven, threw him to the ground, and a voice came from heaven and said, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And Saul said, who is this, Lord? Well, he knew it was Lord, but he didn't know who it was. And he said, I'm the one you're persecuting. And as he got up off the ground, he was blind. And the Lord said to him, I want you to go into Damascus. I want you to go to a house in Damascus and sit there and pray for 3 days. So Paul, this killer of Christians, this person that went to the high priest and said, I want to throw them all in prison because they're bad, is sitting in a house in Damascus, blind. And God shows Saul a vision of a man named Ananias coming and praying for him, and he would regain his sight. See, then God went to Ananias, who was a really good friend of Stephen, who was just stoned days earlier by Saul, and said, Ananias, I want you to go and see Saul, the man that's been persecuting us. I want you to pray for him so he can regain his sight. And Ananias said, hang on. How do I know this is not a trap? How do I know he's not going to kill me? Is this just a scheme? And God said, go. So Ananias, living in the place of the second chance, said, okay, I don't live for me, I live for you. And he went and prayed for Saul. And as he prayed for Saul's, the scales fell off his eyes and he could see. Number one key to living in the second chance: you don't judge people on their past. Doesn't matter how bad it was. Doesn't matter how it's affected you. Doesn't matter if the person's killed your brother, killed your sister. We don't judge people on the past. Number one key of living in the second chance. Your history might have been written, but your future has just begun. We can't do anything about our history, but our future is what is in the hand of God. Second point: don't judge yourself on your past. So many of us are trapped by our own judgments. We are unable to live in the freedom of the second chance Jesus bought for us on the cross. The guilt is too much. The shame is too much. It takes a brave man and a brave woman to replace the self-judgment of the heart with the life-giving grace of Jesus. You know, there were 12 disciples as the 12 men that Jesus chose to live and have a second chance and live from this space. 11 of them followed him. The 12th one, Judas, he took the second chance, but it didn't change his life. It didn't engage with his heart. It didn't change his attitude. And he did something that the grief was so tough, he was unable to forgive himself. He was unable to let go of the judgment of the past. And he took his own life to rid himself from that pain. Judgment only kills. So we need to remove it from our life, remove it from the people we see. We need to remove it from our own life so God can come through us and into that space. See, why didn't Judas just beg for forgiveness like the servant did? Because you and I know what Jesus would have said to him. Jesus would have said, Judas, it's okay. I forgive you. I forgive you. But because he was unable to forgive himself of those judgments, he ended his life. How do we live in this space, guys? We can't judge others on their past, and we can't judge us on our past. The third key is this: that we need to swap our agenda for God's agenda. The first one's pretty hard, hey? Don't judge people on their past. I think SALT is a community that accepts everybody. There's not one person that, as a community, on paper, we will not accept. But the SALT community is made up of individuals that have been all given a second chance. Some of us get caught up in that second chance and feel like that this second chance is for me and me alone. That's not what the second chance is. The second chance is about this life-changing force coming into me and changing me. See, this miraculous part of this is, this guy named Saul changed his agenda. He was a religious, he was a powerful man. Do you know what the name Saul means? The name Saul means a sought after man. He was looked upon with power. He was looked upon, but he decided to change his agenda, and he changed his name from Saul to Paul. Do you know what Paul means? Paul means little. So he went from being sought after, which was all about him, to becoming Paul, who was little, because I will become small so you can become great in me. See, this stuff happened all the time. Do we remember the story of the 3 lepers that came to Jesus? 3 got healed, 1 came back. It happens all the time where our lives get transformed by him, but we don't stop judging people on their past. We don't stop judging ourselves on our past, and we don't swap our agenda for his. But he's calling us today. He's saying, hey guys, come on, you can do it. You've been doing such a great job. Stop judging people on their past. See them the way I see them. See them as these people that have stopped the history and started life again in me. And swap your agenda. So I'm not sure what your agenda is today, and I'm not sure, because I can't judge you on your past or judge myself on my past, but all I know is this: I swap my agenda for his. It's all about you, Jesus. I don't want to live on this roller coaster ride. It's all about you. So I'm going to swap judgment for love. So I'm going to not judge, but I'm going to love everybody I see. I'm going to forgive people from the heart. I'm going to forgive me, Lord, for all those mistakes I've made. And you know the beautiful part about it? When I hear this, when I hear what Paul had become, I hear that voice, that verse that says, in Luke, that says, those that have been forgiven much, love much. So is it maybe that we haven't felt that we've been forgiven much? See, I know I have. I know I've been forgiven much. And I know the love is starting to catch up, but it hasn't caught up, and it will never catch up to the amount of forgiveness and grace that I've been shown. But that's a part of my goal. That's a part of our goal as Salt, as we've been forgiven much. We don't look at the past and judge people in the past. We love them into the future they have with Jesus. So 1, we don't judge others by their past. 2, we don't judge ourselves by our past. And 3, we swap our agenda for his. We change our name. We change our name. I used to be Peter Dover, now I'm Peter, Son of the living God. We change our name. John, Son of the living God. Callum, Son of the living God. Judy, Daughter of the living God. We change our name.